listening to Rings Kings Boxing World Flash Report.
What's up, Fight family? This is Big Q from Ring Kings Boxing World. Big ups to you. Thank you for joining us for this Flash Report. Got some news, man, to drop on you. Dealing with Terrence Crawford and, of course, Bob Arum, this ongoing saga between these two men. That's just been exploding since Crawford's destruction of Kell Brook last weekend. And then it keeps going on. People asking about what's the next fight, what's going on in terms of, the next opponent for Bud Crawford, who's considered the pound-for-pound champ right now. So, article coming from Boxing 24/7 says, Bob Arum, I don't care if Crawford got mad at me, I'm losing money on him. We played on the last Ring Kings Boxing World with Dana White, who's the UFC monarch, what he had to say about Bob Arum. He hates Bob Arum, and I don't like Bob Arum either. I don't hate him as much as Dana White does, but I think that he's old, he's antiquated. He should have been retired, and somebody else should be running that situation. But anyway, Arum says he doesn't care if Terrence Crawford is mad at him for his comments because he doesn't want to continue losing money on his fights. Arum also says he'd like to set up a fight with the IBF WBC welterweight champion Errol Spence Jr. And if Crawford wins, he'll be free to sign with Al Heyman. But top-ranked promoter Arum is upset, saying he's lost a lot of money on Crawford's last couple of fights, and he doesn't want to continue to hemorrhage money. Crawford's contract with Top Rank runs next year, and it doesn't sound like the two will continue working with one another. Matchroom promoter Eddie Hearn said, interestingly, in signing Crawford, but he's not sure if he'll be any better off than Arum trying to make money with him. Hearn already has an American fighter in Demetrius Andrade that he's having a hard time trying to get important fights for. So if Hearn signs, he might end up in the same situation. That was his thought. But what Bob Arum told The Athletic, he says, quote, I don't give a shit if Terrence, his team, as he said, got mad at me. This business is not about getting mad. Would I say that was wrong? This business is about facts and the reality of the situation. He also went on to say, I'll show him how much money we've lost on his fights. I'm no longer in the business of losing money on Terrence Crawford. If we did this fight with Spence and put our money in for half and Crawford wins, Heyman wants to sign him, be my guest for Christ's sakes. How about that? It's not surprising that Crawford hasn't turned it into a star, considering that he's been matched up against fighters that aren't big enough names for his fights to get any attention. I thought originally that it was a bad idea for Terrence Crawford to sign with Top Rank. You know the business about Manny Pacquiao getting away from him. I thought it was a bad move for him to go over to Top Rank. I knew that Top Rank would not work harmonistically with Al Heyman and the PBC champions to be able to line up the fight. We knew that was going to happen. We would have had years of really great fights between Bud Crawford, Thurman, Porter, all of those guys. PBC are the guys running it right now. He should have went over there, but he wanted to be the king of somebody else's house or the best guest in somebody's house. But my mentality on this thing is, like I've been saying, the Mayweather route works here. Guys have to take this into their own hands like he did. But anyway, in response to that, listen to what Terrence Crawford had to say from a report that was ran on another podcast.
You know how I am. You know what I mean? It pissed me off because I'm one of the most loyalist persons that I feel, you know what I mean, to the core. And for him to go out and say some fool like that, it kind of, you know what I mean, made me just look at him a whole totally different way. You know what I mean? And that's just what it is. Like.
So before he even said that, you wasn't like, okay, I'm ready to jump ship no matter what. You wasn't feeling like that.
Never. Listen, all that, I never not once said I was jumping ship. I was leaving Top Rank. I was anything. You know what I mean? So all these not interviews, but these little headlines coming up, Terrence Crawford leaving Top Rank for PBC and this and that. I don't know where all that came from. I never not once told any reporter that I was leaving Top Rank for PBC or anything. Every time they asked me any question, I said I'm with Top Rank right now. And who knows what the future may hold. Come on, man.
I would have to agree with that, but you've shown nothing but loyalty, even re-signing when you had opportunity to leave. Then you obviously stayed with the company. The Pacquiao fight. Do you think that's something that Bob is kind of like dangling in front of you to give you to give you an urge to, okay, this is a big fight. I can make good money with Pacquiao fight. Would that fight be the fight to keep you around if you had the opportunity to leave?
Nah. Because I feel like I can get the Pacquiao fight, somewhere else as well. Being that Pacquiao's not with Top Rank right now.
Right.
So, if the Pacquiao fight is going to happen, it's going to be because he wanted to happen, not because of Bob Arum. Pacquiao got the right and say so who he want to fight and when he want to fight him. So, that's out of our control and out of our hands. It's all in Pacquiao hands because, he's Pacquiao. It's kind of like when Mayweather was picking and choosing his fighters. The public wanted him to fight Amir Khan, but he picked Andre Berto. So
right. That's true.
It's not up to anybody else.
Okay, so now that you've heard what Bob Arum said about you, does that make you think that maybe your time is up at Top Rank, or you just need to sit down and really scream on Bob Arum? Which one?
Listen, I got a lot of things going through my head right now, what I mean? But I don't really like to talk about it because I never was the type of person that put my business in the streets. If I ever had a problem with Bob Arum or Top Rank, I went to them. I never went to social media to try to get any cool points or anything. I always went to them, and I feel like if he had,
you're a private guy.
If he had anything to say about me or how I'm doing anything, then he should have came to me instead. I just feel like that. Like he should have said, "All right, Terrence, let's come up with a plan or something." But you blatantly saying all this nonsense. Like, come on, man. Ain't nobody in your stable doing numbers like I'm doing. Nobody. Not even your prima donnas that you put so much promotion and everything into. Them the motherfuckers not doing nothing compared to me. So
who's
I
that?
just laugh. Listen. I always felt like I was set up from the jump. You know what I mean? So they didn't have to pay me the money that I so deserve. You know what I mean? He talking about money where I used to take pay cuts because I didn't care about the money. I just knew where I was going. You know what I mean? I didn't care. I knew I can whoop these. So I was like, all right, I'll take the $2 million to fight Victor Posto, even though I felt like that was a big fight. I should have got more than that. You know what I mean? But I'm going to f up anyway, and then I'm going to get more on the next fight. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I always took pay cuts because I knew, I had to do that to get to where I wanted to go, and I was undisputed.
Well, he always says that. He always says that he never pays you under the minimum, whatever.
The money then. Yeah, he not. He's going to pay me more than the minimum every single time that I fight because I deserve it. You as a promoter, you got to make this man exciting for people to want to buy the pay-per-view. Right. So they was like, well, we got a budget. They always hit me with this budget. We got a budget, so we're not gonna put in such money when we know it's gonna be a failure. So you know what I mean? That was the first one. You know what I mean? If you go back and you look at the pay-per-view with Amir Khan, everybody want to talk about how bad the Amir Khan fight is. You know what I mean? When you go back, it was promoted 1 week. 1 week. Lomachenko, that's when they started. Lomachenko fought 1 week prior to me. They didn't know how much the pay-per-view wasn't even on sale, for one. They didn't know how much the pay-per-view was going to be. They was trying to figure out the networks and how was they going to do it with the ESPN, because this was the first pay-per-view that ESPN did. So they used me as a stepping stone to start
a guinea pig.
You know what I mean? Yeah, the stepping stone to start see how they was gonna do it for previous events. That's cool. that's cool. You know what I mean? Like if that's what he said, then that's cool. You know what I mean? Like he can't eat. Like personally, if he feel that way, you know what I mean, he can release me now. You know what I mean? Like he can just release me. If you feel like you don't have no, you know what I mean, I'm not an asset to your company anymore. You know what I mean? You can release me right now. You don't have to wait till after a Spence fight. Why do you have to wait till after a Spence fight? You know what I mean? Release me now, and you don't have to lose any money no more.
And this is coming from the Ak and Barack show. Big ups to those guys. They're doing great work on Boxing Talk. But this is the reality, man, behind Bud Crawford, in my honest opinion, man. You heard what Eddie Hearn said about the situation, that he disrespected him. Of course he disrespected. That was just incredibly awful for him to say those type of things about him, that he's losing money with the pound for pound guy. If you heard Terrence Crawford telling you several incidents when they're not promoting his fights properly, when they were promoting Lomachenko's fights several times harder than they were promoting his fights, and they continue to do that while he's then telling people that he can't make no money because he's not spending money to promote him properly. How do you have the pound for pound best in the business right now, and you're not promoting him? And you're talking about, well, I'm losing money, this, that, and the third. The reality at the end of the day is Terrence Crawford peels it back and then says that he can't be mad at Bob Arum because I don't think Bob Arum is doing everything he's supposed to do. We know off top that it's personal between Arum and Al Heyman and PBC. We know that. We knew that Crawford would have problems getting the top fights in that class because most of the top fighters, if not all of them, belong to PBC. And when asked in several interviews about will he be able to work with Al Heyman to make fights, he said no. So it was a clear bias against working with PBC. And then look at the last list of fighters, to be honest with you. The last several fighters that Bud Crawford has fought, besides Kell Brook, who had to come down to fight at that weight in several years since he did it. Then you talk about the Mean Machine, which was a fringe contender. He had an over-the-hill ass Amir Khan that he fought, Jose Benavidez Jr., Jeff Horn, who was a joke, Undago Diaz, and the rest of them. These are not high caliber fighters that you would want to see Crawford, who's in his 30s and in the prime of his career, fight against. Seriously. And that was done because, number one, he's not making the deals. He's not putting up the money or making the right arrangements to be able to get the right fighters, whether it was Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, or Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao doesn't have a guy that he can fight right now. And you're like, well, I can get the Pacquiao fight my own. Well, go get it then. Get the goddamn fight, because the reality is, if Pac-Man has a belt, you get the belt. You get that other belt, then you have two belts, just like Errol has two belts. The reality at the end of the day is that fight could have been made, and it could have been the Kell Brook fight. But the reason why it didn't go through is because Bob Arum wanted the gate for that fight, and he moved it to the Middle East because he thought that they would have lesser C-19 restrictions and allow people in so he can make money off the gate. So he said, okay, never mind, we'll revisit that later. But you still could have had a Manny Pacquiao fight against Bud Crawford, just like you did it with Kell Brook. The reality is he didn't want to put up the money. It didn't make much sense for him, monetarily speaking. And when it's like that, it's time to move on, man. It's time to move on, because that won't change. Then, of course, he said in a prior interview that we played on Ring Kings Boxing is that he's waiting to see about everybody taking their vaccinations. Many people are not going to take that stuff, okay? Let's get that straight. It won't happen. Some will, some won't. So, I mean, that is still a lame excuse as well, because that's not something that is even a reality right now to see exactly what that's going to look like. So the truth of the matter is that you will have to find other ways to make money. He's not accustomed to making the type of profit that he was. He putting most of the money into promoting guys like Lomachenko. You heard Bud Crawford say that. And that's not fair for him to be half-ass promoting Bud while promoting Lomachenko. And then this guy. My advice to Bud Crawford is, you made a mistake going to Top Rank. Of course, he then turns around and kisses Bob Arum's ass. I can't be mad at Bob, even though Bob's out here disrespecting you, talking about you need to be promoting your own fights. Even though he's saying that he's losing money, and the money that he lost on you, he could use to go buy a house. But you can't then turn around and defend what you are from a businessman against a guy that's obviously not spending on you to get the fights. And then you're telling me that you're taking price cuts and reductions in fights. And that's absolutely insane, man. I don't know who's advising them business-wise, but it was a bad decision to go to the Top Rank. You need to go over to PBC or do a Mayweather thing. I've often said, create your own stuff, man. Be your own man, and promote yourself so you don't have to rely on people like Bob Arum, the middleman this shit for you. But anyway, that'll do it for Ring Kings Boxing. Big ups to the Fight family who keeping it real out there. Thank y'all for joining me for this show. If you love Ring Kings Boxing and I straight up keep it real approach to boxing talk, hit the subscribe button right now and share the show. I'm Big Q chiming in for Ring Kings Boxing, and I'll see you later. Peace.
Subscribe now and make Ring Kings Boxing your source for all the latest fight news.